Hello everybody, I'm Jimmy Fantastic and this is my vampire guide to setups and to NAF / arena formats. So yeah, let's get into it. Vampires are very interesting for NAF style games. They're usually tier 1, which means like 6 skills, and honestly if they're not tier 1 they don't get too much more than this, right? This is everything they need. This is like your standard package. It's what's going to be in the next season of Arena. Season 10, you're looking at 3 rerolls plus 1 from leader, 13 players, so you've got a bit of a bench. You know, maybe foul people, obviously absorb some casualties. You've got an apothecary as well. And you've got all 6 vampires, no Vargeist unfortunately, but you know, your vampires, you want to be hypnotic gazing things. The runners have dodge to protect them and, you know, run around and stuff. Throwers, so you could go dodge on this thrower, right? You want a block player to be like a reliable punchy man. So this is what Torquemada runs usually. This is where this is from. It's also the arena default, which is probably, I imagine Devo did the arena defaults and obviously get that from Torquemada as well. So yeah, you want a block player. So it could be, instead of the strip ball, I would say, you don't have to have strip. That could be a block blitzer, and then you could have a dodge thrower. But, reasonable. The leader is really good value, right? A normal skill for an extra reroll is pretty good. Though, of course, this could also be dodge as well. Like, it's not, you don't have to have a leader, but generally people will have a leader. Looking at the blitzers, I think you have to have a frenzy, honestly. The fact that you're starting with Juggernaut, I feel like you just have to have frenzy. The fact that you can turn off tackle zones with hypnotic gaze just means that, like, having a frenzy there, complete sideline control is really good. It helps you with if you're trying to quick score, like, it's really good. And just surprise serves, it's fantastic. Strip ball kind of makes sense when you're playing a team that's all about getting the ball, to have the skill that gives you the ball, right? If somebody has sure hands, you can hypnotic gaze them first as well. So it does make complete sense to have a strip ball. Of course, it is very limited utility, right? You're only going to use it once, maybe twice a game. So but it's very powerful. The once or twice you use the game, it wins you the game, right? So whereas you will get, if you give it block, you'll get more use out of that block. So that's the thing about strip ball. So as far as the team, they're all about managing bloodlust and using hypnotic gaze well. They're about getting the ball off your opponent and scoring, right? Their offense, they've just got to manage the bloodlust. They'd rather score an 8 if they can, right? Because it makes sense. There's a lot of people just like quick scoring them because it takes the pressure off and they get to go on defense. But like, there's no reason not to score. Take longer to score if you can, right? The problem is, the longer it goes on, the more your thralls get isolated and the harder it is to manage them, harder it is to manage the bloodlust over an extended drive. It's much easier to take a turn off defense, right? If you fail the first bloodlust on defense, you can just accept it, become distracted, to use the new terminology, and have a turnover, right? It's okay, go again next turn, no problem at all. If you do that on offense, you just lose the ball and lose the game. So that's the thing, basically, you're under more pressure on offense to manage your bloodlust correctly. So you will see a lot of people just quick score in 2 and then get back on defense, but I think that's a bit erroneous. Like, it's not bad, but it's just a bit, I feel like it's a bit wrong. I feel like if you can get a 4 turn, that's better, because now your opponent's only got 5 turns to get back, and they're going to be a bit more stretched, and you're going to get even better chances to get the ball off them. As far as playing against vampires, you have to, it's funny because it used to be like, like you go double layer the cage and stuff and like cover a lot of area, and then because they've got 3+ gazers and they've got bloodlust, it got very difficult for them. But now, because the gazers are 2+ by default, those kind of wide things just don't work, right? If you're far apart, they just go and 2+ everything and hit the ball. So you have to pack your cage together. You have to pack players together, so they're having to roll 3+ gazers, which is still pretty easy, and they might get in each other's way as well. So like, that's what you're trying to do. And then vampires, they can always go for the ball. So when you're playing against them, they can always go for the ball. So really, you've just got to try and think what's the easiest way of getting the ball and stop that. And then, if you can stop the 2 or 3 easiest ways, fair enough. But there's always going to be a way to hit the ball. And as vampires, you'll always be able to hit the ball. Now, there's value in just going for the ball and failing, right? Because they'll be under pressure in the backfield and stuff. So even if it's not right to always go for the ball, there's always value in it. The problem is, of course, when you go for the ball, every time you use a gaze, the vampire that's hypnotic gazing, somebody's getting punched back, right? And if this is your strength 3 runners, it's very, very bad. So you really want to protect those. And yeah, it all comes down to you can take a turn off on defense, right, and regroup and maybe try and isolate some of their players, split off some of their players from the rest of them to make your next turn. You don't just have to continuously hound the ball. That is how some people play them. They'll still win, right? They'll still win a decent amount of the time. The thing with vampires is not a lot of people have a lot of experience with them, and not a lot of people have a lot of experience against them. Nature of tabletop and fumble, just not that many people have played that many games with them. Now with Blood Bowl 3, we'll see lots of games with them, high-level games. It's going to be very interesting to see people really get really good with them and get really good against them. Now, you're still going to have to be dedicated to do that, right? You're going to have to do loads of arena runs, and you're going to have to specifically try and practice against them, honestly, to play like good players, right? I did for the UKTC. I thought, I don't want to play the first time I play vampires to not have a clue. So I played 6 games versus really good players, and I learned a lot from that, so it did help. And what I learned was there's not too much you can do, right? The first few turns of the first few games, I was hyper obsessing about all of the things they can do and trying to shut down all of the best ways, and you just can't. They're gonna have chances to get your ball. You just can't stop them. You've just got to make it so that stop the best ways of getting it, and think about where the ball goes if they sack it and how they can get away with it and stuff, and try and think about stopping that a little bit if you can. But mostly there's a lot of dice involved, right? No matter how good somebody is, they're rolling a lot of dice. But they do have a lot of decisions. Vampires have a hell of a lot of decisions. So, the more decisions there are that are reasonable, the more the better player is going to pick the right one and stuff. So they do seem very skill intensive, but they're also very dice rolly. So you could play perfectly against them and they roll some 2s and 3s and get the ball off you, and that's it. So they're interesting. They're a very super interesting team. I think it's something for every good player to think about is vampires. Of course, if they get nerfed in the new edition, they'll be less interesting. But for now, they are super interesting. We'll look at some setups here. So people like to go for a quick score. So here's one way to go for a quick score. If they've got 3 players on the tight LOS like this, you can just put one of your runners on there with dodge, right? So you can just dodge off on a 2+, and you can have your thralls. Oh, actually, maybe this thrall can be up here. Yeah, maybe this thrall can be here. So then, and then here. Okay. Let me correct this setup. So now you've got things like in fact, maybe this could be all the way back here. Right, here, look, I made it better. This is the quick score formation, right? So 3 on a 3 tight LOS. This is only against the 3 tight LOS, but you can work things out yourself, right? Maybe get some punches, maybe not. So you've got things like, let's say the ball comes here, then you've got to think where the thrall's going, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pass it. So then you'll move this thrall to here, right? So that you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pass, and then bite the thrall before you pass. So there's like some element of planning where to move thralls before you activate, right? That's something you've always got to think about. So you've always got somebody to bite. You can't complete like a pass action or a handoff or anything. You can't score a touchdown if you fail Bloodlust and you have to bite. So you do have to think about things like that in terms of planning your turn out, which is, it's hard, right? It's an extra level of thinking you've got to make on every turn. And conversely, when playing against vampires, you've got to think about that. Like, can I make it hard? Can I knock over a thrall? base. If I could knock over this thrall and base 3 thralls, that's pretty good, right? That's taken 3 thralls out next turn. Now that might force them to use a reroll or something, which might help you in the long run. And they might have to come around and try and rescue these thralls and stuff. So there's a lot of thrall play, but really you want to kill the vampires if you can, right? The vampires is what they live and die on. So we've got this Frenzy here. The Frenzy could try and get a Surf, or you could push in with Frenzy, and then you can make like some kind of formation where the thralls can run forward and get the ball to this runner. And come down here. If the ball comes up there, then one of these thralls could get it, or at least they're covering it. You know, you could take longer. You don't have to quick score, but generally people set up for quick scores, and that's how they play vampires. Defensively wise, there are a couple of ways of doing it. You can do rule of 5 offset. You probably want to go offset with vampires, right? Maybe not against Norse or whatever, where they could just surf a player. But in general, you want to go offset because, again, this is just making people think differently, right? They're only going to put 4 or 5 here. They're going to have to put lots of players there to stop you coming directly through. If they don't do a good defense, you can just roll a blitz and just get the ball on a vampire, or they could fail a pickup and you could blitz through and stuff with all your team gazes and everything. So having them all concentrated is good for because like the effect of gaze is kind of like multiplicative, right? If you can do 1 gaze, you can get somewhere. If you can do 2 gazes, you can get like almost twice as far, like almost more than twice as far, right? And if you've got 6 gazes, you can just go absolutely anywhere. So yeah, this is pretty good. You've got the block guy blitzable, but not really, right? Because he's behind the LOS. And then you've got your faster players on the extreme edge if there's a blitz result, or if they set up poorly. There's a chance for these to really run down the side, and you've got your frenzy player as central as possible, so you can surf either side if the opportunity presents it. So that's pretty decent. Offset rule of 5, and then the other way is offset chevrons. Now this doesn't have to be 1 square back. This one is a bit weak to quick snap, but people can't really set up to exploit it as much. Because they have to think about the ball all the time, right? Even if you're playing Wood Elves, you can just try and hit things as much as possible. If you try to just hit things as much as possible against vampires, you're likely to end up in trouble. But you don't have to have this 1 back. You could have these all could all be 1 back. They don't have to be, they could all be 2 back. They don't need to be 1 off the LOS. But of course, they're a bit closer to react to things if they're 1 square off the LOS. So it depends, and this is, Frenzy can't realistically. Actually, you could get surfed by Frenzy here, right? They could run around and push you twice and surf you. So versus Frenzy, you probably want to tuck in like this, right? Probably want to tuck in like this versus Frenzy, and then if they don't have Frenzy, maybe you could even go out 1, right? You could maybe even go really far out versus non-frenzy. So you've got options there with how you play it. We've got the Frenzy here to try and get a surf on the short side, and we've got the block player because he's harder to knock over, and again the runners on this side to push through if if this side is left weak. So yeah, and the leader protected. So offset chevrons is a decent one. And you can do all kinds of formations, right? Like this isn't really chevrons anymore, right? But it does the same thing, covers width and gives you reactive pieces. That's what you're all about. You could just set up in normal chevrons, you could set up in normal rule of 5, but the offset is giving you a bit more agency for using your gazes and stuff and getting to the ball and turning over your opponent to win. So yeah, that's it. They're vampires. As I say, we've really only got Torquemada in England who plays vampires. There's a few in Germany and France or whatever, Italy maybe that play a bunch of vampires, but Torquemada's played loads, like hundreds of games on tabletop, and I don't think anyone's approaching his experience with them. So it's going to be really cool to have other good players play lots of games with vampires, and we'll see. Get to watch them. We can't watch tabletop games. That's one of my big bugbears with tabletop is, right, you can't watch tabletop games. Like, I feel that I played well at UKTC, but I don't know because I can't review any of my games, right? And so it's going to be good to have these on record. Top vampire players seeing what they do, seeing how they deal with all the bad dices, because, you know, they're inevitably going to get bad dices. A lot of the current thinking is, you know, like they're powerful, but they're not so good for winning tournaments because they'll have one game where the dice kills them. And there may be some truth in that, right? Maybe like using vampires, maybe you win a few more than you normally would if you're not so good, and maybe you lose a few more than you normally would if you are good. Who knows? But whatever happens, it's going to be fun finding out. So there you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and stay fantastic.